Hi,
Hello.
welcome to the podcast. This is What's in the Dungeon podcast, where we talk about what I was looking in our Discord randomly, going through the different categories. We have a Discord if you'd like to join. All zero viewers. Um, and I realized I saw the description. I think you posted on Twitter of what our thing is, and it said two nerds talk about nothing. They talk about nothing. I was like, that's actually probably true. We talk about a lot of shit, and it's mostly nothing.
We talk about nothing of
Yeah.
importance.
Sorry we missed last week, everyone. I know we have a lot of dedicated fans who are heartbroken. Murph has a sickness this week, and I had a sickness last week, and it's about the same sickness, and it has left us scarred and deformed. And
You are deformed.
yeah, but no, we're Murph's much better. I think he sounds a lot better now. He's got his meds.
I'm on day 4, and today's day 1 of meds.
There you go. So Murph will hopefully be on the mend. He is not drinking a beer, I think. So it's a telltale sign that it's probably not the best right now.
I just took meds. I don't want to die.
No, you don't want to die. We had a week off. We had to get some health issues straightened out. So we're back now, discussing, of course, what is in the dungeon. Quick caveat: I brought this up one time. We were talking about HeroScape, that board game with the hexes and stuff. They've released a. I'm very pissed off about this. They've released an edition of it or whatever for pre-order from Hasbro, and it is $150, and none of the miniatures are painted like they used to be. And they sent out a thing with it saying that if they don't sell 8,000 of it, Hasbro's going to scrap HeroScape again. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Why is it like the start? Like, there's no other option. You can only pay 150. So it's like $200 after tax and shipping and stuff. So there's only one option to buy, and it's $200 flat. So there's no like low entry level like there used to be. 2, all of the old miniatures used to be uniquely hand painted. Like they looked like a miniature.
Or was it like
it was
they were like plastics that were made to look.
No, like they were painted. I don't think they were hand painted. They were probably
They might have been
processed,
but in a factory,
maybe.
by hundreds of people on it.
Yeah, but they were painted and they looked nice and they looked realistic, I guess, for a game. All of these now are very well detailed, but they're all only in the set color of the 4 factions. So there's red, green, blue, and yellow. So they're all only one washed out color.
Yourself or
I don't even think you can, because it doesn't look like it's very like bright colors, like the reds and the yellow and the blue and the green. So I don't know if you'd be able to paint over it. Maybe if you like stripped it and primed it and stuff. But
they're putting the least amount of effort into this that they can.
Well, like the miniatures look good. Like I will say that caveat: the miniatures look good. They just have no paint. Like they've got really good details. They got like a high level of features on them. But like I was like, 1, why are you making us pay this much money? And 2, why aren't the miniatures uniquely painted instead of this washed out color? And 3, why would you release a statement saying that if you don't sell enough, they're going to can the whole project? Like what? Why? Like no one.
That would disencourage anyone from.
Like that just makes it seem like you're begging for money, or you're telling us that we have to spend this money, or else it doesn't matter. Like they have to get 8,000 pre-orders.
It's like the opposite of a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Kickstarter's like, if we can reach our goal, we can make this. This one's like, if we don't reach our goal,
we're going to actually dump all of this in the trash. Like we've got a burn pile right there, and I'm going to kick the lead writer into it.
What kills me with that is say they
Turn
sell 8,000 of these, right? So they keep it. But then, people are like, cool, it's an expansion. Are we going to get more? And they're like, no, we just sold the minimum. This is it.
Well, like they said that this is like a test to see like how well the market reacts, and if it goes well, they'll have like a whole production line they're gonna set. I'm like, what? Why though? Like why are you half-assing it again?
Well, let me ask you this: do you think now, like genuinely thinking it as an adult in this economy, that right now is the best time to sell a board?
I'm not gonna buy this.
$150?
I'm not gonna buy this. If it was. I will say, honestly, the miniatures are bugging me. Like, if the miniatures were all individually painted, I feel like I would probably...
If there was more effort in the thing that's
$150. Or if they hadn't set that thing out that said, if we don't make 8,000, it's going to fit. Like, I'm not going to give them my credit card number then. I want to wait to see if it, like... They announced they were releasing them. They did, like, a whole panel at a con. And now they're saying, well... yes, but maybe not. So I'm like, no, this just seems shitty. I'll wait and see if it comes out, and then maybe I'll buy it. I don't know, but I'm not gonna. It just seems shitty. It seems very shitty, like the whole process. And maybe it could be Hasbro, because Hasbro's notorious for like all these, you know, niche games and nerd games. They kind of just shoot down all the time because they make Monopoly and Scrabble and shit.
Because they can strap any name or any partnership on any of those games.
Yeah, so it could just be Hasbro being shitty, but at the same time, I'm like, well, it's just annoying. I don't want to deal with it right now.
What kills me is it's not just them. There's a ton of companies right now that are in gaming markets across the board that are just doing absolute fuck shit right now. Like between Blizzard with the Overwatch 2 shit.
Oh yeah, Troy's been playing that a lot.
Yeah, and people, again, I asked them on their server the other day, like, what they thought. And once they get to play it, they say that they're having a good time. But it's just like how they've been handling this has been...
Yeah, it's not been particularly good.
Fumble. And it's not just them. It's not just them. There's a few other companies. There was what was it, that guy that sued that one gaming company because they used an asset that kind of looked like his, and it's been litigating for like 2.5 months. I don't know. There's so much going on with this one.
There is a lot. But
I saw something recently that stated that there was a woman that is suing the Andy Warhol Foundation because of a photo of Prince.
Oh, I don't know. I know that there was that lawsuit going on where the baby on the Nirvana cover grew up and tried suing them for that child pornography, and it got thrown out of court.
Shot that shit down because they were like, "Sir, like less than 5 years ago, you were bragging about being on the cover, and now you're like, I need money." It's because number one, it's because he tried to be friends with the band, and the band was like, "Hey, we appreciate you being on the album, but like,
I didn't know that." Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, you're using my blah blah."
It's like, bro, you got paid for that.
No, he didn't. That's the part that he's upset about, is that his parents got paid.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry.
Because he was
there was money.
Like, you can't make me, but again, it was like $500 or $600. Like nobody, for an album that literally sold like more records than like, it's like Beatles albums and that album, but it's whatever, because the idea here is that like,
you took the money.
Yeah,
you already did it.
Like, there's a ton of people who did that. Here's a piece of relevant news for you. The actor that played Hagrid died today.
Oh, I don't know his name. Old Hodor.
Coltrane.
Oh.
Something Coltrane. Robert
Coltrane?
He that's not his real name. Apparently that's just the stage
Robert
name.
Carlyle.
But
Robert Coltrane.
It's Coltrane. I remember that much. I just don't remember the first name. But
Fosco P. Coltrane.
Fosco. Thank you for the Smokey and the Bandit reference. No, that's Dukes of Hazzard.
That is Dukes of Hazzard.
That's Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, I'm glad.
Smokey and the Bandit was that No, I'm thinking Fire Marshal Bill was an SNL skit with.
That was a Living Color skit.
That's right, Living Color.
Jim
Carrey. Fire Marshal Bill. Jesus.
He played that character in Liar Liar.
Yeah.
1 second, just in the background, Fire Marshal Bill's standing there. But yeah, no, he passed away. I also didn't realize that the actor that played Hagrid was in the movie Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. He was Dr. Jekyll.
I never watched Van Helsing. Hugh Jackman.
And then he was also in the James Bond movies with Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
He was the Russian guy from GoldenEye and The World Is Not Enough.
I don't know. I only ever knew him as Hagrid.
It's hard to tell with the accent and the mustache. But yeah, it's apparently the same guy. So good for him. Sorry, he died at 72.
That's pretty good.
But somebody, the other lady, the old English lady, died recently.
Angela Lansbury.
Is that what her name was?
She wasn't English. She lived in Ireland for a little bit. She was from America. She always played like she was in Murder, She Wrote.
That's what it was.
Yeah, but she's from like I don't know. Her accent always gave me like New England vibes, and in Murder, She Wrote, she was from New England. Like that's where her like thing was centered. She was pretty cool. Angela Lansbury.
She was the teapot in the original animated Beauty and the Beast. She's been in a lot of stuff. She had a pretty prolific career for her time.
Yeah.
You know, we're losing a lot of people. I'm still waiting for the days that I hear the names Morgan Freeman, Clint Eastwood.
That makes it sound like you've got hits out on them.
No. I'm just like there's specific actors like there's ones that you expect, and then there's ones that you don't.
I think Clint Eastwood's pure hatred of everything is going to keep him alive well past our graves. Like, that man just exudes an angry energy at every press conference, every interview, every role.
Pure American willpower.
He's just like so angry all the time, and he just looks angry. And it's like, He just looks like he's aged angry, like constantly.
The age is like, what was it? The anger has like built a cocoon of
Yeah,
rage around him.
that's what it kind of looks like.
No,
but
but it's
I don't know.
like he and Morgan Freeman are two prolific actors of their time that are old enough that you're like, okay, someday this is gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Williams was not one of those, but when he passed away in like 2014. That was left field for everybody.
Yeah.
Because he was still in his like 60s, and there's like Tom Cruise is in his 60s and he's still doing well. So it's just like you don't expect.
Well, Tom Cruise has got that Scientology magic that keeps him alive.
Tom Cruise saved you with your man. Yeah. No, it's weird to me to see like certain actors like Ray Liotta. I didn't realize how old he was.
Yeah.
But
he just got married too, or was about to get married or something. I can't remember.
That's pretty late in life to get married.
Yeah. Well, it was. I mean, she was very. I think she was a little bit younger than him, and they had either just gotten engaged or just gotten married or something. But I mean, she was, like they had been close for a while.
I hate that. I'm trying to think of anybody else that we lost recently. Obviously, we've lost multiple people. I mean, we lost Coolio.
Oh, fucking Gilbert Gottfried was this year too.
Yeah, okay, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Gilbert Gottfried to me was never famous for anything other than his voice and just playing like really one-off Nicolas Cage style roles. Like just anything that you could get him to be in, he would be in. Because ever since he lost the Aflac commercial, for being extremely insensitive.
Yeah, he was insensitive with everything. I mean, that was always him. He was always insensitive.
Yeah, but I mean, it was one of those things where like nobody really cared. It's like oh god, I can't think of his name now. Norm Macdonald, right? Norm Macdonald died.
Oh yeah, that's right. He had cancer.
Again, it's one of those things where there's a lot of people that miss him. There's a lot of people that really liked him, like Bob Saget when he died.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that miss these actors and these characters because they were specific roles and stuff. It's like when Eddie Murphy finally goes, right? Like he's played such memorable characters to certain people. And the issue is that like people forgive them for being insensitive because of that. Like if you listen to Robin Williams stand up,
there's a lot of shit.
But there's them as people were always relatively good people. They just had very poignant ideas that rubbed people the wrong way. And Gilbert Gottfried was one of those. But outside of Iago, he never played anyone that really anybody gave a shit about. So
he had a very iconic voice, but I don't think like I was trying to think. I don't know of any role he played other than Iago, and just being a personality and a comedian.
I remember him playing again, just like random characters in various like animated features. And I remember him being on that I love the 80s and I love the 90s on like whatever that TV show was, Fuse or fucking Travel Channel or whatever the fuck, because he's always just there. He has a quote. I'm not gonna say on the podcast, but he has a quote from one of those where they reviewed the movie Steel Magnolias.
Oh no!
And every time I think of him, I just think of that quote.
Anyway, this has been Dead Actor Chat with John and Murph.
Yeah, no,
the part of the show where we talk about dead actors.
Chat, where we talk about people in our past and our well, I can't say past, but it's like the idea of like these are people that we grew up watching.
They're cultural touchstones of our lives that we think of.
People that, and it's so sad to think about because there will be a generation where some of the people that we care the most about in terms of media, no one will know who they are.
Yeah,
like we will mention them and nothing.
I don't know, Murph. I don't. It might just be a generational thing, but I don't give a fuck about any of these people. Like not in a mean way. I just don't like people have passed. Like it's like when Michael Jackson died. I was a little bit younger, and I was like, who the fuck care? Like who? Okay, great. I get it. Like I understand the sentimentality and I understand that, but I have never been a person to go, oh my god, like when Betty White died, that was huge, and I was like, oh well, I mean she was pretty aged, and this she did a lot of good stuff, but I'm not like there are people who like go. No, I'm not saying you do, but I'm saying like when famous people die or like things happen to them, it seems like there's a lot of like there's a very large subset of at least Americans who are like, this was part of my life. I have lost a part of my life. And I can't begrudge them that because they have. Like, they watched all these movies. They listened to all these musics and such. But I have, like, always just... I found that interesting to view as a person. Like, people who are so attached to these celebrity icons. And when they die, and then they... Like, oh my... Like, with the Queen passing, I was like... Cool.
Well, somebody
Like,
somebody explained to me, especially if Americans are upset at the Queen passing, because that's a little weird.
yeah.
That's like being upset if like a teacher in your high school that you didn't have died.
Mhm.
Like you saw them, you were aware of them, you maybe said hello, but like
Yeah. But
they
my
passed
my
and you're like,
my
oh no, my life. But like for them, like I was explained that like the Queen to the English, and not all of them, obviously,
mhm.
but the Queen to the English was like in the same rarity as like the American flag. They
Mm.
were like, it is a symbol of a group of people. Like the monarchy is a symbol of a group of people that goes beyond the country itself. It has been there for as long as they can remember. It is a signal and
Ugh.
and a beacon of their country.
I
And like
mean,
so, when she died, it would be like if they had to retire the flag of your country or something like that. Like, yeah, it's not going to affect you to a huge deal, but
excuse me.
like it is a symbolic loss. I get that. What I
Mhm.
don't understand, and well, I say that I understand where you're coming from on the idea that people freak out. Let's just pick like Ray Liotta again. Like people like gushing all over the internet. Like
Mhm.
there'll never be another actor like you. It's like, yeah, I can
There's,
understand being upset, but
yeah.
like we have to remember that a lot of these people connect to this. Well, number one, a lot of these people get all gushy because they're just looking for attention. They don't actually care. They're just like, I have to be the one that seems like the biggest fan of this person so that people will be like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss when it has nothing to do with them.
Mm.
But two, I think it has a lot to do with projection. People don't have specific fulfillments in their life, so they cling heavily to these media figures to fill that gap. And when that person leaves, they have become so accustomed to that person filling that gap
Yeah.
that they lose something that didn't exist in the first place. Again, Robin Williams for a lot of people, and I mentioned him because that one affected me in a way that I didn't expect. Filled the gap because as a kid, when things were very filled with turmoil between my parents and stuff, his movies were the same every time I put them in the VCR.
Mhm.
Like it was the same Genie, it was the same Patch Adams, it was the same, Once Around the Cuckoo's Nest. Like all of these movies were the same regardless because it's pre-recorded, he did his thing, he moved on.
Yeah.
And those were a comfort to me. So it's not so much that we're upset at the person dying, we're upset
Mhm.
that the comfort that he provided is now no longer reciprocal. Like we can't, it's gone. It's like your ice cream Bluebell is still there. You can get it anywhere,
Mhm.
but oh no, your
Unless
favorite
that
restaurant
person
stopped
licked
serving
it.
it. Yeah, thank you.
Remember that happened.
but it's one of those things. So like I kind of get it. It's all coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Like we just lost a coping mechanism and now we're upset.
Yeah. I get that. I didn't expect us to get so like emotionally
Meta.
invested. Yeah, that was
Right,
very that
you're
was a
into
very
that now.
deep talk about actors.
Well, I mean that's what we do here.
Yeah, I don't
We're
know what
only
we do
20
here.
minutes in. We got time.
We got plenty of time. So yeah,
All right, so hit us.
we've
Hit
had
us
a
with
good
the,
week. Well, I've got a couple things. One, we introduced a bit 2 weeks ago that was I don't remember what we called it, like just a game of interest for us, whether it's board game, video game, book, I don't know, tabletop. So that'll be happening. I'm talking about Urban Shadows here in a little bit, but we have our potentially our first playing of D&D coming up potentially this Sunday if you can make it. No pressure again. If not, it'll be in a couple of weeks.
is it still session 0 or is this something else?
This is not so much I can't. Why can't I say that word? Session Szechuan sauce 0. Session 0. Because we've created the characters. We coupled creating the characters into the end of the previous game. Last time, so there wasn't enough time, and I didn't want to keep y'all because I was already keeping you late. But basically, what we would do is kind of finish up backstory bits because, like I said, I've kind of gone over Troy's with his just because we live together. So he has an advantage and a disadvantage.
Did he do most of it himself, or did you have to lean in?
I had some key points I needed to make. One of which that I didn't even realize. I thought I said multiple times. The adventure will revolve around the city that we created. Like that will be.
Which is
Yes.
the question that he was like, I didn't realize. Or Troy, when we spoke earlier, said that he thought that the majority of the campaign would be away from.
That's what he said.
End there.
Uh-huh.
And I was under the impression that you had made it known that the majority of the campaign would be Stonevale.
Okay, so I wasn't crazy.
Because
Troy just
Stonevale
doesn't
was
listen.
huge. Like we're thinking it's this tiny.
Yeah.
It's like it's a.
It's a pretty big city.
Place.
It's
like
a
the
good
idea,
city.
Like our person is very finite in comparison to the stone walls and the cities and stuff. Especially with the here's what we did and then the fast forward of it. So we're expecting it to have like grown to like a huge bustling area. So yeah, I was expecting it to be an adventure taking place both above and below the city.
Sorry, I had a lot of food last night, most of it involving dairy or cheese, so I'm paying for it today.
I feel that.
I didn't eat lunch because of it.
I drank like an entire gallon and some change of carrot ginger V8 because the medication that I was taking was like wrecking my stomach.
Okay.
And my thought was like, oh, if I drink ginger, it'll be better for my stomach. There's only like 85 calories for this whole thing. Great. No, it just amped everything up
Yeah.
into overdrive. So I felt like garbage.
I'm sorry, Marv. But anyway, yeah, so we'll do a little bit of backstory ironing out, just making sure everyone understands like what is happening, what's going on. But
I'm very excited. I stated that before the podcast, and for those of you that are going to catch this later, I'm excited because I think Stonevale turned out pretty cool.
I think it did too.
And there's a little couple of things that are kind of one off that may or may not get explained in detail if you decide to iron those details out. But there's so much. There's so much going on. And I think it's going to be interesting. My question is I don't remember what Josh is. So I've completely forgotten what
That's okay.
Character
he's a warlock.
I know that he's a warlock that much. So, and I know that he's not a human. He's a
drow. He's a dark elf.
Yeah, that's what
he's a dark elf warlock.
And he's a hermit,
no. Troy's a hermit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh,
Josh is a sage. He went with sage background.
I'm just trying to think. Troy is a hermit. Troy, the most social of all of us in terms of energy.
And that's what we had to get through with his backstory was why he would come to the city and figure out and we worked through it and we got some good stuff, and I think he's excited about his story now. But he did a lot of good, sort of build work with his whole backstory that I was really proud of.
I'm so nervous about that.
Don't be nervous. It's a story. We can tell it how we want.
But I love this part, and I just want it to be yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll make sense, and if it doesn't, then we'll make it make sense.
Not trying to make it Captain Emo, I was abandoned as a child.
I was born at a very young age, and at that young age, I was abandoned and orphaned and killed, but I survived, and I grew up on the streets and in the slums.
I was born a lonely child. Before my birth, my mother died.
It's what? Bro. Was that the Dr. Doofenshmirtz meme of on my birth on the day of my birth my parents didn't even bother to come.
No, there's a video recently and I watched it and it was like a city's version of American Idol, but it's like a country in Africa.
Yeah.
And it's these two very well-known artists of the country and they're sitting there. And this guy comes out and he's like, so my mother died before I was born. And they're like, what? And he keeps saying it like that makes sense. And they're like, so you're saying that your mother died before? And he's like, yes. And when she was pregnant with me, my dad didn't exist. And he's like, what are you talking?
They're both, he wasn't in the picture.
I don't. Yeah. And then the guy's like, and then after. When I was 3, my mom used to sing me this song, and that's what I'm gonna sing.
Well, she's dead. Did she say she's dead?
And then he's like, well, that's a sad story. And she goes, I know, it's making my mom right there cry. And then they pan over, and his mom's standing there, and the guy's like, and I wish this was a bit. I wish this was a bit. I think somebody just coached that guy to say these things.
Just to make a sad backstory trademark.
And the guy's like, the two judges are like, I have no idea what's going on anymore.
Jeez,
I love that.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. I've done a lot of. I've fleshed out the town. I got businesses and buildings. I've got factions. I've got stories. I've written the arcs for the campaign. It'll just kind of depend on what y'all do. But for the most part, I've got a pretty set storyline of what's going on either in the background or with you interacting with it or not. It'll be interesting. I have bits of information that you'll know depending on what your relation to the town is, if you live there, if you're just visiting, or if you're an immigrant or whatever, you'll know certain things based on that level of knowledge.
Have you spoken to Josh at all about his backstory yet?
Yes, he said he spent 5 minutes thinking about it and forgot, and I said that's okay. We're gonna deal with it. But that was Wednesday, so he's had a few days.
The reason I ask is because so Troy, obviously his character will not be from Stonevale unless he's recently gotten there and established himself. But
yeah.
And I know that as a sailor, it would not make sense for my character to be from Stonevale. So I'm also getting there for the first time in some reason. So I didn't know if all three of us were newcomers to Stone
I think
Hill,
he was
or-
planning on more of a city dweller, someone who's probably there
So
for a
he
bit.
is a naturalized
Yeah.
denizen of the city at some point.
I think
That's
so.
good because that was going to put us at a huge disadvantage if all of us were like, oh, I don't know where the fuck I am,
Yeah.
just stumbling around and stuff.
But it's going pretty good. I've enjoyed. I view creativity. I think Elizabeth Gilbert said this. She's the one who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and The Signature of All Things. I think she described creativity as going down into the depths and bringing up like whatever's dwelling there. Or maybe that was David Lynch. I don't know. Someone I like and whose books or videos I liked. I don't know.
It's like you just quoted King Arthur.
I know the quote. Like I know the quote. Like it's creativity is going down to the depths of your mind and bringing to the surface what's down there. But I don't remember who said it. I don't know if it was the creator of Twin Peaks or the female author who's written a good amount of books.
Where is it? We choose to go to the moon and do the other thing. Jane Austen.
Jane Austen. As Abraham Lincoln said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. But yeah, so I've really enjoyed the scheduling of it because now just on my weekday off, I go to one of the coffee shops down here and I just sit for a couple hours and write out whatever I want to write out.
Where is there? I mean, without getting specific, like, is it in the grocery store nearest to you? Is that what you?
No, I go over
There's
to
another one
there's that apartment stuff near the Mexican restaurant down the road. Where all those it's like the apartments are built on some restaurants and stuff. There's a coffee shop in the back there, because it's not Starbucks. I do, and I will text it to you.
Okay, cool. I'm just trying to think if it's one I've been to or not.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to say that I have.
I don't think you have. It's a little bit out of the way for you. I mean, it's close to me, but it's further closer to down into the country.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I mean, it's cool that you have a place like that.
Yeah. And it's been nice. I'll go and just write random shit, and the way that we created everything has given me lots of time to or lots of content rather to pull stuff out of. But it's been nice. I do.
Local... No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the only local coffee shop I technically have.
On their side.
We have one nearby, but it's like super religiously affiliated. So like every time you try to.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. It's owned by a church.
Yeah, and then the other one is the one that we've been to. You went there with us when we went out to eat the Thai food. The one over there in downtown in Historic. It's on the corner.
When did we go
as
to
if you
eat
were
Thai
going
food?
When we all went, when they had the festival there on accident, because we were going to go to that one.
Okay.
We went
right.
by it. It was like right there on the corner.
Oh,
Troy and
okay.
I went in there last time. We had red velvet cake, but it was pretty. Yeah, that is the closest like non-harassing local coffee
Yeah,
shop
and not
I could go
Starbucks.
to.
Just because Starbucks is.
Well, don't get me wrong. I like
Starbucks.
I worked there.
It's
I
just
thought it was a great
very-
job, but it's overcrowded and it's not. It's so trendy-esque that it makes
Yeah.
it not comfortable to be there.
No. And also, the ones in this area, they don't have good seating arrangements.
They're very much heavily relying on the drive-thru.
And it's like,
And parking is trash.
I don't
almost
mind
all
it.
of them. I don't know what it is about that, but like the one over there near that Little Caesars that we always
Yeah.
go to is like
it's not good at all.
none of them have.
They
parking
just
lots
threw
that
it
work
right in the
there.
middle of a parking lot and said, "Oh, figure it out."
You'll get there. All right.
Anyway, I'm gonna say from now on, just because I've given this some thought. I think we have now 3 or 4 episodes discussed our campaign. I think we should keep that to a minimum, mainly because we're not airing the campaign, and I don't want people to get upset or confused. So in regards to like
come on,
what's
you
going on,
guys-
but I'm thinking of this from like a listening perspective of like
Well, but yeah,
no
but
one knows
it's
what's going
not
on.
for them.
That's true. I guess that's
Here's
true.
the thing: is like I get it, and obviously if we ever want to make this anything that people want to give a shit about, like we'll have to fix that. But like we could do a recap. Like you were very good at recapping events. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to be like, for those of you curious, these are events that unfolded in the campaign, and here's how they handled it, and then we move right on.
Yeah, I might do that then, because I do have written recap notes I could pull from. Anywho,
We had that one scribe for fucking forever.
yeah, he's gonna be y'all's friend.
Maybe he'll be alive.
No, he is alive still. Anywho, last session, last episode on What's in the Dungeon podcast.
On What's in the Dungeon.
I picked the game I wanted to discuss, and that game is Urban Shadows, which I am confused about, because here's the thing. I funded it on BackerKit, And now I have my receipt and I have my email that confirms that I paid $100 and something or $200 something for this almost a year ago now. And when I try to log into BackerKit separately, it says that my email is not valid. So I don't know if I somehow they updated BackerKit in between this funding or whatever, but I paid a shit ton of money for the second edition of Urban Shadows that they put on BackerKit and Kickstarter and all these other places.
Send it to you, not real email.
And I still have a confirmed receipt of everything, and I still get updates every month or so or every quarter when they're finishing production and stuff. But I don't know. I might have to reach out to them because I don't want to not get this game because it looks really good. Anyway,
your free money dash.
Basically. But I don't think they would do that. It could just be BackerKit being stupid. Anyway, so Urban Shadows is similar. Well, first of all, there's a game style that was developed a few years ago, and it's called Powered by the Apocalypse, and it's basically a game system that other people use in their books and in their tabletop role-playing games.
So Powered, an established way to play a game, but then the nuances are changing.
Yes, basically. So Powered by, it's like how D&D is very D20 centric. Like if you had to pick a subtitle for Dungeons and Dragons, it would be a D20 system because that's the majority of most things.
To translate this to stupid brain, it's the Unreal Engine of games.
Mm-hmm.
We have a baseline for it, and you build your game off that baseline.
Yeah, but with Powered by the Apocalypse, these are actually separate intellectual properties that are used by it. So, I've talked about Monster of the Week several times on this. Monster of the Week is a Powered by the Apocalypse gaming system. So you have also, I just got a new one called Blades in the Dark that I'm going through right now that is also Powered by the Apocalypse. Urban Shadows, first edition, it was Powered by the Apocalypse. Second edition is as well. And all Powered by the Apocalypse is it's a D6 system. So you only ever have 2 D6s, maybe 3.
Is it? Okay.
So
would you technically say the Quiet Years considered a Powered by the Apocalypse?
No, because we didn't actually use dice. I could have used just a tally system to track that. We didn't roll dice or anything. It was just they gave us dice to keep track of the projects. Yeah, it was convenient, and we could never have more than 6 weeks, so that was it. Because we weren't actually rolling to succeed or fail. With Powered by the Apocalypse systems, anytime you want to do something that is outside the bonds of what you would normally be able to do, you roll 2 d6s, and you have what's called a mixed success, a failure, a success. So you have a range, which I like because it's a lot of times with D&D, it's very cut and dry. It's very much you fail, you succeed. Good things, bad things. That's it. With Powered by the Apocalypse gaming systems, you have very limited stats. So you only ever really have +3 down to -3. And those affect your dice rolls. So if you roll and you get a 12, that's an instant success. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Because I did make notes for that.
Okay, so these do have instant successes and instant fails.
Well, sort of, but but there's categories for everything. So I like Powered by the Apocalypse because it's very organized, but it's also very loose in how you role play. So a 10 or greater is a strong success. A 7 to 9 is a success at a cost, and anything below that is a failure of some sort. So you have room for interpretation of what that means. So, but they give you those interpretations later on.
So I punched the guy, but because I punched him in his rusty tooth, I got tetanus.
Yeah, or something. Like there's successes, there's mixed successes, and there's failures. So you have a nice sort of gamut of things you'll run of what that means. And I like that because in D&D you don't really get that. You get, okay, you punched the guy, or oh, you missed. There's never you stabbed him, but actually, as you stab him, he falls off the cliff and you've lost your sword now. And that sword was a family heirloom, and now you've had to pay this price. So I kind of like that there's a give and a take. Urban Shadows specifically uses Powered by the Apocalypse. And it is a very, I think it's a very political minded game. It's very heavy on factions. With Monster of the Week and with Blades in the Dark, there's not a heavy... There are factions, but they're not spelled out. With Urban Shadows, you have your main stats, which are heart, blood, spirit, and mind. And those 4 things are what you do your actions. And then there's also factions. There's
is heart like courage?
Yeah, so heart is charisma, Blood is like fighting or running away. Mind is seeing things and being smart. Spirit is like will and magic and supernatural stuff. Then there's the factions. So there is let me see. Mortality, might, power, and wild. The factions each have moves that you can take. So any action you take is called a move in this game. So you can like the regular moves are. Let me see here. Faction moves. Sorry. So your basic moves are attacking, escaping, persuading, figuring someone out, tricking someone, keeping your cool, and letting it out, which is like a supernatural thing that might incur corruption, which we'll get into later. Faction moves include hitting the streets, putting a face to a name, investigating a place of power, and there's also lending a hand or getting in the way, which is its own thing separately. But it's very kind of, it's strict, and those are the only actions you can take. But it's loose in that those actions can be a lot of different things. Like you can interpret those a lot of different ways. Like, oh my god, I want to shoot someone. Well, are you trying to keep your cool, or are you trying to attack them? Because maybe you're trying to keep your cool because you're angry at them, or maybe you're actually trying to kill them, so you're attacking them. So there's a lot of different ways that you can explain the moves that you're taking. The interesting thing about it is that every class, so there's no class, they're called archetypes, and you get what's called a playbook, which I think for this one there's 3 sheets each. I think. Let me look here. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's 3 sheets that you'll use, and then there's a 4th sheet that gives you your basic moves and stuff. But you don't ever have any other books with you. You just have these 2 sheets. You fill out your name, and as you level up, you'll select different options on these sheets. So like as you as you level up, you'll actually build your character on this one sheet. You won't ever have to look at anything else, which is kind of cool. I like that it's all kind of stuck together, and that's the same way with most Powered by the Apocalypse games. So it's a little bit simpler to build your character out. It's also a lot less wordy than a Dungeons and Dragons character. You don't have a lot of spells. You don't have a lot of attacks. You've got several moves that you can use, but that's it. And each archetype is tied to a faction. So for, let me get to my list. For mortality, there's the aware, the hunter, the veteran. These are all mortal humans usually who are aware. I mean, just like the aware is a class, is they know the dark magical things going on. The night faction has the specter, the vampire, or the wolf, which is a specter is a ghost. Vampire's a vampire, wolf is a werewolf. For power, there's the wizard and the oracle. The wizard is someone who has spells, who has a very wide array of powers. The oracle is someone who's blessed and cursed with visions. So they don't necessarily have fireball, but they can see side effects of actions. They can read people pretty well, etc. The wild has the fey and the tainted. The Fae is like a fairy, someone who's not necessarily from here. You have powers, but they're not like the wizards. The Tainted is, it's got a strong pull towards like a monster vibe. You made a deal with the devil basically to get your powers. Now these are, should be clarified, these are first edition archetypes. I believe the second edition has new ones that they're adding. I don't know what those are, because again, I can't really view it. But basically at the start of play, the DM is called the MC, the Master of Ceremonies, in this setting. And the nice thing about this is that it's very much more collaborative than D&D is. You don't necessarily have a lot of, like, you'll build out a world and you'll give maybe a couple of quests or a couple of items, but every time that there's a success or a failure, it moves the plot along separately. So whenever there's a failure in something, the MC gets to make a move against you. So I'm going to take a hard move or a soft move. So maybe you fail a check. Okay, well, nothing bad seemed to happen right then. Well, maybe the DM or the MC has decided to make a hard move later because of this failed check. So it's very systemic. So you have a give and a take, as opposed to just the DM deciding what happens as you go on. The DM kind of builds this world and tells you where you're at in it, but after that, it's kind of up to you, like to push the story along. There's a lot of yes-anding. There's a lot of role playing as well, because this is a game where if you get shot, you'll probably die. Like this is a very gritty, realistic game where it's more about political machinations than it is about shooting fireballs at each other. And I cast lightning bolt and I shoot you with my 6 arrows and no one's dead yet somehow. This is a very much like you will probably die. There's also
is this a cooperative type of play? Or
yeah, it can be. It can be. So it just depends on where your characters are at. I've seen campaigns do both, where people are at odds with each other. Any type of tabletop role playing game, though, usually begs the players to be cooperative. Sometimes they're not, and that's always interesting. But for the most part, like maybe you're hired by a contractor to take out a person, and they've hired different factions out because they want to represent the people. I don't know. So there's a lot more conflict, though, like sort of psychological and emotional conflict than there is physical. There's a lot of investigating. There's a lot of figuring shit out. There's also a mechanic called corruption. As you fail, you can mark a corruption point, or as you succeed, to basically enhance your powers. Once you fill out your corruption slot, your player's gone. They have succumbed to whatever dark pact they made, or whatever spells that they had used, or whatever feeding frenzy they went into. Once your corruption meter's full, it's over. Every time you level up, it goes back, though. So you can check it, but if you get too far and if you use it too often, your character will become basically a monster.
So it's a gamble. You can use it to your advantage, but if you fuck up consistently, it could also end up being your downfall.
Yeah, and every character has different corruption effects. So like, if you're a werewolf, it'll mean something different than if you're a specter. But it is pretty interesting, just looking at the different let me pull up a playbook here. Let's do the Scholar. Let's see here. Corruption moves. So like for the Scholar, occupational hazard. Mark corruption to keep your cool with mind instead of spirit. That is a move they can take. So he can just choose to do that instead of failing a spirit move. He can use mind, which is as a Scholar, your mind's probably better. In the bag, mark corruption after successfully escaping a situation to reveal that you stole something. So this is something that you can do after the fact. You can just mark a corruption after you got away from somewhere and say, oh, and I stole this cool magical artifact that does something. Now you've done it, but you've also marked a corruption. Don't trust anyone. When someone double crosses you, mark corruption to reveal how you already planned for this betrayal. You immediately gain the upper hand in the situation. So it's not like specific mechanics.
Batman.
I knew that you knew that I knew. Like, and this is just an example. But it's cool because it allows for more storytelling than necessarily mechanics orientation.
It limits people from going to Baha. But
I knew that you knew that I knew.
It's like, no, wait a second, no, you didn't. You die. Fuck off.
So and every archetype has different has different corruption moves.
I immediately thought of like what's his name, Gene Wilder, playing an oracle, just going, I knew it.
You also have different moves and different things. You have drama moves. You have archetype moves. You have session moves. There's always cool things going on, and I really like the playbooks. In Monster of the Week, they're called playbooks. Here, they're called archetypes. But they allow for a level of character creation that I just really like, because you can make it quick, you can make it easy, but then you can still get a good depth of field from your character that you wouldn't necessarily get.
Does a game like this typically last? Is this
these are usually,
or is it these are like a couple session kind of games?
I mean, it's just dependent on your MC. Most Powered by the Apocalypse games I've seen or listened to or viewed or been in have run shorter than a D&D campaign, just because there's more action happening. In a D&D campaign, what normally holds time is the combat. You spend a lot of time in between the storytelling doing your combat sessions, because combat is intrinsically separated from It's separate. It's a separate entity. Whenever you enter combat, you have to roll initiative. You have to plan out your spells. You have to check your spell slots. You have to check your actions. You have to do all this, and then an hour later you're done, and you get back to the storytelling. But what drives everything is the storytelling. Like, okay, yes, combat is good and healthy, and it pushes storytelling, but outside of combat, you're moving a lot quicker, right? Because in combat in D&D, every round is 6 seconds. So a round though in real life for us rolling probably takes 10 minutes. but it's split second. So it's like bullet time, like getting in there and then getting out. But while you're in there, it takes forever. So with games in the Powered by the Apocalypse system, it's a lot quicker because you don't have separate rounds. Like whenever you shoot someone in Monster of the Week, it doesn't pause and everyone roll initiative. No, it's just that's one of your moves you can make at any time is attack someone. And okay, now they get to make a move and determine if they have the upper hand or not. And they get a response to that. And there's rules for combat, of course, but it's not like a whole different system that you have to go do then at that point. So they do run shorter just because you can get through stuff quicker. Not that there's less content. It's just that you can pace out a Monster of the Week campaign or an Urban Shadows campaign a lot more than you can pace out a D&D campaign because you have to but you have to take into account there's going to be a lot of combat sessions.
I guess depending heavily on the type of campaign you're running.
Yes, it will also depend on that. The nice thing about Powered by the Apocalypse is they all have very specific themes, right? So Urban Shadows is supernatural politicking. It's vampires versus werewolves, and there's politicians are corrupt and wanting law reform, or these people are trying to take over this town and run the mine. With Monster of the Week, it's okay. This week there's a monster. What are we going to do? What's its weakness? How do we figure out what's going on in the background?
So
with Blades in the Dark, you're all criminals. You're trying to build a criminal organization. You're trying to get one over on these unsuspecting people or kill these people. Like it's very much themed heavily. With D&D, you basically at the start of your campaign kind of pick some themes that you want to throw in there. But with Powered by the at least the three I've mentioned, it's a very specific. Monster of the Week is investigation and like basically contract monster slaying, right? It's kind of like The Witcher, but you're not powerful, like comparatively. With Urban Shadows, it's all right. We've got to talk to these factions and grease some palms and do them some favors, and maybe we'll get what we want. With Blades in the Dark, it's all right. How do we plan this heist? But not because we're trying to steal from good. We just want money. We're bad people. We want criminal enterprise to succeed. So the themes are given to you, which I also like because then it's like you don't have to worry about how am I going to include mystery in this action adventure campaign? How am I going to include romance? Like I think Magpie Games, which is the company that produced Urban Shadows, I think they have a romance one where it's just like a romance role playing game. That's kind of cool. So they heavily. And it does limit that because you're not going to see a dragon flying through the sky atop a tower hoarding its wealth in Urban Shadows. You're just not going to see that because that's not the world you're in. You might be in the Wild West. You might be in Central Europe. You might be in modern times. Like you can change the times up, but the setting is politics, monsters, conflict.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's just, and again, that's 3 examples. There's probably more that cover very different types.
Oh yeah, there's lots. There's Kids with Bikes, which is one that I think they did.
Okay.
Yeah. There's. I like the titles of these.
The quest to see who can do the gnarliest grinder.
Well, I think the impetus for that one was like E.T., like kids having adventures and handling things that are way out of their league, but somehow still succeeding or maybe failing. I think that it's a lot shorter form. I think Kids with Bikes is, but they've got lots of these different sort of not necessarily one-offs. I mean, like you can run a Urban Shadows campaign probably in like 6 sessions or so. Maybe 5 or 7, depending. Like you don't need too much.
Yeah, but when you say session, are you talking about like 2 hours at a time? Or
like 2 or 3 hours. Yeah.
6-hour days kind of thing?
No, just like 2 or 3 hours, 6 separate days. But it just depends again on the world you've created and the setting you want your campaign to take place in.
Okay. So because that also leads me to a question about our own campaign, which is in comparatively from these types of games compared to D&D, what is not necessarily even for us, but just in general for comparison, what is a good D&D length for intermediate players?
I don't know. That's one of those really subjective because it's going to depend on your DM. Like I have a thing where I don't like DMing for large groups. I don't like being a dungeon master for 7 people. I tried that and I didn't like it, and it's my own flavor and I don't care for it.
Is it you didn't like it because the group you were with and it?
No, I just don't like having to manage that many people. Like not even manage. I just didn't like having that many people. Like it's just me. Like, and I don't think I would mind playing in a big group. I just didn't like DMing a big group, and it's just my own personal preference.
So for you then, what do you think is the cutoff for the comfort?
For people, I try to keep it 5 or less. Like I honestly,
that's still a decent.
I was really excited that this group had 3 because I've always wanted to have a 3 because 3 is like very. It's 2 is generally too few. Because your DM usually has to supplement. It just depends. Again, it's all subjective. But I feel like 2 is too little because, your DM usually will have to play as someone to help you out.
Is between 3 and 5.
Yeah, and I think that I've always DM'd larger, on the larger side. I don't think I've ever gotten below 5. So the 3, I was like really excited. I was like, okay, this will be fun because I can actually take time to get with the players and one, scheduling conflicts are of course going to be less the less people you have. I mean, we still have them obviously, but it's not trying to corral 7 people into a room.
Table.
Yeah, so it's I am really enjoying the fact that there's only 3 in this one, and I'm not saying I wouldn't ever do more than that again. I just and for length wise, I like longer campaigns because I like long stories. I like having a slow burn for things, and I like leading up to things, but I have done some one shots that I've really enjoyed, like setting up just some key points, like as just a this is one session, this is what we're gonna do. But I generally lean towards a longer campaign. Like when I write campaigns, I generally go longer, just because I like weaving different things, and I'm a really big nerd. I like symbolism, I like tropes, I like just putting layer upon layer into this artichoke of a campaign of what shit means and what's going on. And I'm always yeah, because I mean artichoke, you got to peel back the layers to get to the artichoke heart and eat it.
Like an onion.
Yeah, but I like artichokes. I don't like onions. But the issue with that is it requires longevity with your campaign. Like you have to have players who are committed. If somebody new wants to play and it's halfway through, it's like you're not going to understand anything, and you're definitely not going to get the emotional payout at the end of the campaign that you would have wanted. It also means that like there's a level of control I have to give up, because like when I write a long campaign, I get excited about the story, and I get excited about what I want you guys to do, and then inevitably you're going to do something different. So I have to accept at the beginning. Yeah, no, honestly, I don't think there could have been a better solution or ending to the Quiet Year. I liked where we ended up. It gave me so many different avenues and tangents to explore with. We had named characters I could flesh out. We had geography outside of the city I could deal with. It was a good system. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with that boat.
Yeah, that actually was something I struggled with today, because it was there and then the next week was winter, or the Frost Shepherd. So I was like, shit.
So is this like a Henry Hudson thing where like he came strolling down the river? It's a ghost ship now or some shit?
No, I figured it out. I've got something planned for it, but I don't want to
It's a good thing I'm not like.
Throw it out
my
there.
backstory is I was on
that boat. No, you weren't.
The only boat near the entire campaign.
Sorry, you weren't on that boat.
And I have seafaring vessels as a perk that I'm not allowed to have. So.
You do. You will use those. I make a promise to you that you will use your seafaring vessel proficiency.
You told me that I couldn't have that. You told me I couldn't use that or the other one. You said that you told everybody that there's 2 things at the bottom that you cannot use.
No. I said you could use No, I was talking about the features, the suggestive. I didn't want to use the features that your background comes with.
Yeah, that's it.
No. You have proficiency in boats. That's a proficiency.
In navigation.
The feature was that you could procure travel on a boat, for free.
Get the fuck out on that boat.
The boat's no longer there. I will say that. The boat is no longer there. But you will at some point be able to captain a boat. I make that promise. That will happen.
Well, that means we're going to leave the city.
Maybe. Oh, or maybe not.
Or not. Or maybe the city fucking floods.
Oh my god.
No,
your boat is just an upturned door, and you're using some wood to scoot along.
I'll never forget you. My heart will go on. No, I actually had a thought about that. And I know this is a bit tangenty, but so like one of the proficiencies of being a sailor is that you have adequate to expertise in navigational items. Mm-hmm. So like a compass or something.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but that's based off of if we're following like normal Earth science, like those are either going to be held by the
Magic.
magnetic poles of the
It's
planet,
magic.
or it's going to be
It's
magic.
magic.
But the issue is that the whole planet going into fucking dark mode and the bursts of magic happening everywhere.
Yeah, it's magic.
It probably makes all of my navigation shit useless.
No, I thought about that honestly, and I mean, we can get into it if you decide to use the compass, but your compass will point you towards a thing that you will find helpful. Basically, it's magic in that you can attune it to a certain place.
There would probably be a guy somewhere that's job is like part of his repertoire is magic attunement for navigational items. You're like, I'm looking for ore. Well, I can't tell you exactly where it is, but I can attune this to point you in the direction.
Yeah, that's actually spell locate object or item.
That'd be that's such a cool thing about D&D is that you don't see that a lot in depth for a lot of like other like mimicking styles and stuff. Is like magic in D&D actually serves a purpose outside of just powerful wielding.
Yeah, there's a lot of utility spells that I've never used because fireball is the only spell that matters.
I'm just thinking like the idea of like there's a guy whose sole purpose is magical attunement for items. I need an enchantment to strengthen a cheaper pickaxe because this is what I can afford, and it's cheaper to pay this guy than to go buy a new pickaxe. And the guy goes, cool, yep, here's a protection spell. You can run that. It'll last you probably for about a week, and then come see me again, and I'll put another one on.
It's like a chiropractor.
That's a guy that you can go see. If you have, like, water, but you don't have, like, fully fleshed out, like, clean water, there's a guy that can come to your home and put, like, a produce water spell on a spigot, and then there's water coming out now, and you just pay that guy to stop by your house once a week, like a milkman. Like, that's... Like the
waterman.
Idea that magic can be used in a practical, like there's a movie called Practical Magic, but
there is
like practical magic use is so cool to me. Like that's the one thing in games that make me go, man, I would be a spell user if there was shit that made sense. Like if my flame could actually light a fire.
Murph's over here getting a hard on for utility spells. That never happens.
Because everybody's always like, oh, I want to be able to.
I want a fireball. I want a lightning bolt.
Explosion spell that will knock the top of a castle.
Murph's like, I want something that's gonna build me a hut. Murph, there's a spell for that.
That makes my coat warmer in the winter.
You know, that's just a cantrip. There's a spell that builds you a fortress, and if you cast it enough times, it becomes permanent on the same spot. There's a spell called Tensor's Floating Disc that's just a floating disc you can put a bunch of shit on, and it will follow you. Like just carries your shit.
Fantastic. Like the bag of holding is my favorite magical item because depending on who is allowing it, like it can go anywhere from like it's got a couple of like small items in it to no, I carry an entire fucking traveling cart. Let me just open this bag and it vomits out a fucking cart.
That's pretty cool. Those are fun. The utility spells are something that like I try toying around with, and then it's like I want to cast fireball.
It's just I get well okay, so like utility spells are only good for support magic in my opinion because like no one's gonna be like, what do you need? Well, I've got this cool thing where I can hear really good, so that's what I'm gonna use in battle, and you're like, eh.
Yeah, it's all again. It's all just dependent on how you play. Like I think there's good things and they're all good things. Well, I will never say there's not a good spell or there's not a good class because they're all good. It just depends on how you play them and how you use the spells. Is
there
really
are good
important.
Classes. There are terrible players.
Yeah, basically. There's no such thing as stupid classes, only stupid players. But even then, it's usually because their DM was pretty bad at explaining it. Yeah.
I'm a fighter. Oh, cool. Use the sword. Don't punch. That's a monk, sir.
So, Murph, I'm
a fighter with my fist.
What's your game going to be next week?
My game next week. We talked about one not long ago.
Yes.
I had mentioned. Oh, we were talking about this. So we had mentioned Cyberpunk and its like, resurgence, and the game Cyberpunk is a tabletop RPG that the game was based off of.
Yeah.
And then the tabletop was based off of 2 novels.
Yeah.
Which also inspired Blade Runner, which is super cool. Because like all Cyberpunk
it goes deep-esque
media comes from like 1 or 2 sources.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to tell you I read one of the 2 books. I haven't read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, but I did read of course now I can't fucking think of it.
That's okay. It's a Philip Dick.
It's in my fucking living room right now. But it's super cool because, like, as a guy who played, I'd say at least 70% of the Cyberpunk campaign, and then having watched Blade Runner, I was reading through the book when I had time to read like that, and I was like, they're so close. Like, there's so much shit in this book that like you can see directly translated, like jacking into the net,
Yeah.
like an artificial AI construct of a complete person's personality up to a certain point, so you have to like fill them in on what happened to them afterwards, and like augmenting yourself in specific ways, and like the idea of a Ripper Doc being a thing.
Yeah.
Like there's all this cool shit. Oh god, it was so cool. And then like the guy, like the main bad guy being, it's a book that's been out since the 80s, so I'm not
Yeah.
spoiling anything. Get over yourselves. The bad guy being an AI that was designed by a specific family to preserve the family, but then someone corrupted it because of power. Like, it's super weird to find out that the entire time, the guy that was like holding all of the power here was a meat puppet for an AI.
Yeah.
You're just like, what? What? That guy's been insane this entire time.
That's the whole story.
It was such a weird ending because you see this guy and he is like nice suits, lots of money, doing all this stuff, and you find out that it's a guy that's been presumed dead for like 15 years.
It's Mr. House.
And AI is legitimately like remote controlling his body to fulfill the needs of this person. And then when he finally snaps back into it, he is riddled with PTSD.
Of course.
And he's like starts freaking out and like blowing shit up.
Oh, when he was younger?
It's just, oh god, it's so cool. It's so cool. The idea, and this is the 80s. It's like
Yeah.
81, 82. They were talking about shit that like exists now, like the ability for a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Like that was technology, but like that was something we were looking at. But like the way he described them with the touch screens, and then the way that you could plug them into things and transfer storage between them, things that did not make any sense at the time that absolutely became true, like the modern microwave,
Yeah.
or like 7-Elevens being popular, like that kind of thing, like places like the what is it, the movie Big Hero 6 took a lot of information, because New San Tokyo is like one of the places in the book. Like the idea is that it's like heavily Korean and Japanese influenced American cities, which Night City legitimately ripped from. Like it's so, yeah, I'm gonna save all this for next week, but that's the thing, it's just, it's crazy.
So Cyberpunk.
Like, yeah, we're gonna cover Cyberpunk, both the game, and then work our way backwards, because it's super cool. It's such a cool.
That'll be fun. That'll be expansive, I'm sure, because you seem really into it.
I love reading.
Mm-hmm.
I love to read when I have when I can finally ADHD myself into a book. It's so cool to see what expands out of it. At some point, we need to cover The Witcher.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because we talked about it and mentioned it, and I am.
Well, you would know more about
like
it now.
40% through the games. I haven't read the books. I've seen the shows, and I've played through all of the games now.
Did you ever play like Gwent or any of the games that were based?
I played Gwent in The Witcher 3 because I really like that. I didn't care for Gwent the game.
The game, yeah. There's another game that's from it. It's like
Thronebreaker.
Yeah, Thronebreaker. That's what, yeah, because they have the thing. Because Elder Scrolls essentially copied it, and now they have like Elder Scrolls Legends, which is a card game based off of. Because everything needs a fucking card game.
It does need a card. It's because of Hearthstone. It's all Hearthstone's fault.
Hearthstone money.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, man. It's crazy to me when popular media people don't realize are like inspirations. Like the fact that there's a Clue movie that has Tim Curry in it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Or like there's a movie just called Life, which is based off the board game.
Yeah, media's
I don't know
weird.
How you do that. Yeah, there's a ton of cool games out there, and also in the reverse of that, medias that become board games that rival almost better than the actual media.
Yeah.
One of those, not in reverse, is Battleship. That was awful.
It was
I don't
awful
know why
movie.
the fuck they thought they should make a movie.
I blocked that out of my mind.
But the Fallout game you gave me, I've done some research on, and that looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah, we do have to play that at some point.
Yeah.
Once we get through Legacy, we'll play that because that has like specific scenarios in it.
Yeah, you'll have to teach me that shit because
That's okay.
I'm gonna look at it and see how it is. But it's not just that. There's another one that came out that I'm pretty interested in. It's like a history based game. It's like think Civ, but like role playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, I don't know, because I'm trying not to be cliche and say like things that immediately draw to me. But like the way to explain it is like there is a game where you are each like lords or duchess or whatever the hell you are of specific lands within a specific country, kind of like how in Dragon Age, like each of the lords meet at the lands meet and stuff. You play that, but the idea is that it's a political intrigue game about amassing alliances and or like at the end of the series, it's like who has the most, like who came out on top within the kingdom and then takes the throne next. And I thought that was pretty interesting. But it's based off of an 80s TV show.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think that's another card game based thing.
That's fun. And I will say a disclaimer that what I discussed about Urban Shadows, that is by no means exhaustive. Like, there's a shit ton of stuff I didn't touch on. There's a lot of, I didn't want to go like and spend 2 hours talking about this game, which I could because it's really fun.
Well, because you mentioned, I think, what was it? So last time you mentioned Monster of the Week, and you mentioned it here too, but you equated it to the X-Files, and I immediately, like, my sci-fi boner was like, yes, X-Files.
Yeah, it is essentially that. And honestly, I think, I mean, it'll take us a while to get through this campaign, but if we make it through, and if everyone's still intact, I definitely want to try a Powered by the Apocalypse campaign next. And I know it's I'm very filled with hubris talking about another campaign after we haven't even started my first one with you guys, but I'm excited about it, and I'm full of ideas. I have an old campaign for Monster of the Week that I wrote. I spent like a couple months writing it out for a group I was with, and then the groups broke up, and I never even used any of it, which was annoying.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention to you was, because we were talking about this, so the house that I could potentially be moving into about wedding,
the house on the hill,
so like November, December timeframe. I wish it was on a hill because then it could be creepy. So with that going on, one of the spaces in the home that we would be getting is this really big sized room that could fit a fairly large table.
Yeah.
So at some point I would love to host one of these events
for sure.
there, because we would have like a mini fridge available. There'd be tons of space, tons of booze. And then, like, if you guys decided to crash, there's a whole spare bedroom.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that sounds fun. So yeah, check out Urban Shadows. You can still late pledge, I believe, on BackerKit and Kickstarter, I think. There's also first edition stuff you can get. You can look at all the archetypes. There's actually a fun Google Drive thing I found that's got them all laid out in form fillable versions. Check out anything else we mentioned. I guess buy HeroScape if you want it to succeed. If not, don't. We will be discussing Cyberpunk next time. I don't want to say next week because it's flu season. I got my flu shot. Get your flu shot. Everyone get your flu shot.
Yeah.
That's not a negotiable.
I was going to do that today, but they were like, you're already sick.
No, you got to. Yeah. You don't want to double indemnity.
But my job's giving it away for free. Oh, thank God. Also,
every pharmacy in our area is giving it away for free. You don't need insurance. They will give you free flu shots. Get it. The strain changes every few years. It's good to have it, especially because you want to build up your immunity to the point where you get older that you've already got a really good immunity to it, because the flu when you're older is not fun.
I just want to point out that, like, I both absolutely agree with people that hate the American healthcare system. And what I will tell you is that if you have the ability to have private healthcare through your employer, it's fucking fantastic.
Oh, it is.
Today's medication came out at $22. The last time I only got 2 meds this time. Last time I got 1, it was $130 out of pocket.
Jesus Christ. It's ridiculous.
$22. I will take it.
Yeah, it's nice. But anyway, get your flu shots, and we will discuss Cyberpunk next time. And then, of course, the final question, Murph. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Murph, what is in the dungeon?
It's a 7-foot-tall leprechaun named Galded.
Okay.
Who shaved a giant part in the middle of his beard because he calls it the Gobstopper. And he's dancing a jig to a Kesha song that's being played backwards.
Oh, that's good, Murph. Ooh, you've raised the bar on what's in the dungeon. Damn, Murph. Damn, did you think about that ahead of time?
No,
that's not fair, Murph. You can't write notes.
I'm finding adjectives in my brain. It's just like,
that's pretty good.
Red, shoot.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. Anyway, I've been John.
Someday we have fans that draw out each thing we say.
That'd be so nice, Murph. That would be so fun.
Just the most random. It's like an animation that we put. It's like us opening the dungeon door and then somebody's weird shit ass animation.
Yeah, it's a GIF of whatever the fuck we've just described.
Just insert item here.
Anyway, I've been John. You've been
Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yeah, that one. Please join us next time for What's in the Dungeon podcast. Goodbye.